Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, breaking down more second round picks, Riker, and obviously the big news, the guys that have been getting all the love for the Raptors, it feels like, is Scotty Barnes in the first round, and then the homegrown Canadian Bantam that we just made a video on, just dropped it, probably dropped these in the same day, but there's one guy that I think's been a sleeper and could honestly be the biggest steal of this draft, watching his highlights, watching his shiftiness, watching his progression. But David Johnson, I got him done up in a little Raptors Photoshop here. Riker, 6'5", played for Louisville, and took a massive leap from his first year to second year, obviously with more minutes added. But he's a guy, he's shooting 38% from the three-point line, which is very encouraging. But he's not just a shooter, he's a remarkable defender. He can drive, he can pass, you watch his highlight tapes, he goes into the lane, he can get into the lane at will, then do these little dump-offs. And you read the scouting reports for this guy, and you know, they talk about, oh, he's not a great shooter, he's not a this, not a that. Well, the numbers say otherwise, the highlights say otherwise, so maybe he just fell due to false narratives that were embedded early in his Louisville career. But Riker, what are your initial thoughts on David Johnson coming in the second round?
My initial thoughts, Louisville. Good team, good conference, played real minutes, 35 minutes per game, started all 19 of his games in his second season there, and not just good three-point percentage at 38, but 4.4 attempts per game. That means he's willing to hoist them up. And when we've traded away Terrence Davis, we've traded away Matt Thomas, there's an open spot for a shooter, a scorer to come in and take a couple of lobs out there off the bench, try to get a spark for scoring, because that was sorely needed in this past season, because there just wasn't a lot of bench scoring. You know, that was our biggest weakness, I guess. It was a decent defensive team. We just didn't have guys that could knock it down. So I think there's going to be a role. You know, we look at Delano, Banton, he's probably going to go and play some time in the 905. I can see David Johnson coming right up and being a backup shooting guard for Gary Trent Jr. if, you know, he's willing to commit on the defensive end. So this is a good pickup.
Yeah, well, David, he's known for his defense. He's a hounding presence. He gets some crazy steals. He's mobile. He's uber athletic. So that's a really interesting piece. And just looking at him play, it's interesting to see that he fell, because he is a more polished prospect than it seems like a lot of those guys we saw in the second round really were. Obviously, is less of a project than Delano. And you brought it up, right? This is a guy that I think could be inserted into the guard rotation probably right away. And especially after we lost Jalen Harris, right? We do have our three guard tandem right now of Fred, Trent, who are locks, and Malachi Flynn, who seemed to play his way into a lock, at least at the start of the season, right? If at the backup point guard, but we'll see what happens. But there's going to be a lot of players, depending on who we bring back, gunning for those backup smaller guards, because he is only 6'5". He's not 6'9", Riker, which is the usual height for Raptors drafting guys now. It's or 6'9" in shoes. That's what people are saying. Scotty Barnes 6'7". You judge their height in shoes, folks. Don't be spreading fake news that he's 6'7". He's 6'9". But David Johnson 6'.
You're not playing the game in your socks, so you give him the benefit of the shoes.
Yeah, give him the benefit of the shoes, right? Get the LeBrons when you're doing the height meter up. But this guy's coming in the three-point shooting. He could be really exactly what we need. And you sort of look at him, he gives you a Norman Powell vibes, or that's Delano, right? That Norman Powell look, the Norman Powell feel, Riker. And as I sort of alluded to earlier, because I was looking at this guy's highlights, looking at this guy's stats, you know, a shooter from Louisville that can do all these things that we've mentioned. How does he fall so far into the draft? And then you look at what Draft Express is saying, what these, you know, articles are writing. They're saying, oh yeah, the jump shot's not really there. Well, 38% says otherwise, Riker, and they say the passing level isn't really there, right? And you look at his stats coming up, 3 assists for, you know, 6'5" guard. That's pretty encouraging. And then the rebounding, the hustle for a guard, 6 boards per game. That's a whole nother level right there. So, you know, scoping out the highlights, did this guy just fall? Were people scouting him, or are we missing something, Riker?
I don't want to say we're missing something, but when it's somebody's job to go and watch the games live and review the tape, I'm sure that they have a little bit better insight than us looking at his box score and the
And
best
highlights.
possible clips compiled. Yeah, they're obviously not going to show his misses and his bad IQ plays, but yeah, you look at the box score, they're pretty good numbers for 35 minutes a game in a competitive conference to be able to put up that volume of shots and hit it at that percentage. Heck, you want that as an NBA team for a guy to come up off the bench, take 3 or 4 shots for you. He's not going to play 35 minutes now, but if he comes out with confidence and hits almost 40% of them, can't ask for a lot more than that. And you say he's a bit undersized, but 6'5" as shooting guard, that's still pretty good for the NBA, right? That's still pretty on par. There's smaller shooting guards, there's taller shooting guards, obviously, but he's right in the mix. So I don't know if he fell for a reason or for not, but none of that really matters because he ultimately landed into the hands of the Toronto Raptors, and now they have an opportunity to mold him into the exact player that we want, which is going to be, hate to say it, because there's always a bad connotation for Raptors guys when they get put into this pigeonhole, but 3-and-D guy, that's what I'm really looking for from David Johnson. We've been burned in the past with our 3-and-D guys, but he could be maybe one of our first good 3-and-D guys, Ben.
Yeah, well, we have some good 3-and-D guys. OG, this is more of a 2016, when we started the Raptors Digest, the 3-and-D curse with DeMarre Carroll. Obviously, we had to make a gold star out of DeMarre Carroll right there. But
Danny Green.
Danny Green, he's a multi-time NBA champion. The Sixers, they probably would have won the chip if he hadn't gotten injured. But I guess the final point I do want to bring up on David Johnson is the growth that he had from year 1 to year 2 at Louisville. And now minutes, they obviously played a big part. His minutes took a massive leap, but he went from a 21% three-point shooter, Riker, to 38, 39, right? That in one season is a remarkable jump, even if you're not in that much of a rhythm, not getting that many minutes, your rookie or freshman season in college. But to amp that level of three-point shooting up, and not only that, right? Free throw shooting, I think that's the most, especially for college players, the most indicative thing on how your jumper will translate, because do you have good fundamentals? Do you have good form? And he went from the same number of free throws, right, in his freshman season, and shot them at 60%, increased a whole 10%, Riker, to 70%, which is not remarkable, nothing crazy, but that growth and development is essential. And seeing guys that can make leaps like that still as a young player, that is Raptor. That screams 905 Toronto Raptor development guy that can maybe get into that level of player that we want him to be. And maybe not right away, even though we think he probably is more polished than a Banton or whoever we're bringing in, but 2-3 years down the line, I think this guy's going to be a legitimate piece for this team.
Our opinions split here because I see him being an immediate rotation guy just because we've lost our depth at that shooting guard spot and trading away Terrence Davis and trading away Matt Thomas. So I think whether he's ready or not, he's going to be put in a situation where they're asking him to play backup shooting guard minutes. But, I'm not giving him as much credit for his improvements in his stat line from his beginning season to his second season at Louisville, because like you said, it's all about rhythm. It's about minutes. It's about being comfortable in your role. So if you're only taking 20 attempts on the season, now next year, instead of playing 15 minutes, you're playing 35, you're almost playing the entire game. You're getting those rhythm shots. You're getting them when you're comfortable. Of course you're going to get the benefit from that. But I agree with your point that to have any kind of improvement is a good sign because it shows that he's able to tweak his shot or he's able to do the right things to get better. So that's promising. But I think whether or not he's ready, he's going to have that role. He's going to have that responsibility. Who else would it be if not David Johnson? Are we keeping around Bembry and asking him to play the 2 next year? Like who's going to be our backup 2 guard right now?
That's a tough question. Paul Watson is obviously a guy that has impressed people at times, but then got his opportunity to run and then was out. Well, he got an opportunity. Played really well for 3 games and then was out with health and safety protocols at the worst possible time in his career. Nothing you can do about that. It's not even injury, right? It's just health and safety. So that was a tough thing for Paul Watson. Really didn't get back to the level he was at prior to that. Obviously, we lost Jalen Harris. Maybe we do bring back a Bembry, as you said. I think the Toronto Raptors are really high on Bembry, and obviously Bembry showed he's not going to be a guy that can come in and lead a team that isn't that stacked talent-wise and win games. And no one expected that of Bembry, even though he was sort of thrown in that position when everyone's playing the Kazoos. But and for people that don't know the Kazoos, tanking, we're good. I feel like we've had a few new people in the comment section, a few new subs, but I think Bembry is a role player, specifically at the start of the season when he's playing off of a Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet more often. Then I thought I liked his style, so maybe him at the 2. Right now, David Johnson, Bembry, or Paul Watson, who you taking just solely off highlights of David Johnson?
Again, David Johnson. Paul Watson was there. Maybe he gets his chance again, but I think he'd have to prove himself again. I mean, obviously David Johnson would have to prove himself. And Bembry, I don't want to lean into him too much because obviously he was a hustle guy, an energy guy. He played with passion. His IQ wasn't there. And really, when I look at what he was able to do versus what Rondae Hollis-Jefferson was able to do, I still would have preferred to keep around Hustle Man Chap because
you're a big Hustle Man Chap guy.
I was a big Hustle Man Chap guy, and Bembry didn't offer that much more in terms of ball handling, in terms of 3-point shooting. I know technically he was supposed to be a step up in those, and then maybe a step down on the rebounding and defensive end. But I'm not very high on Bembry. I like him. I'm just not super high on him. I see David Johnson coming in and having a chance to play right away, whether he's ready or not. I like what I see. I like his box score, his box stats from college. I think he could come in and be a shooter, be a 3-and-D guy if he's willing to put in effort on the defensive end. If not, no use.
Yeah, well, I think he will be in. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting thing. I think I disagree with you. Bembry definitely brought a lot more shooting than Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, and obviously is a little
just
bit
not a better rate.
Handler. Yeah, that not enough to offset the rebounding and stuff. But maybe if Bembry was put into the lineups that Rondae was put into, right? Because Rondae benefited from playing off of a really free-flowing offense. Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka on the high post rather than Aaron Baines and whoever was down there for the Toronto Raptors this season. Alex Len, Freddie Gillespie. I guess Birch was okay for a stretch, but even he was only there for a little bit. But I don't know. David Johnson, you and I are both high on these second-round picks. Who are you more high on before we end it off? David Johnson or Banton? Who are you happy with?
Banton long-term, David Johnson immediate.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the sort of common consensus. But Masai Ujiri's making great moves in the second round. But let us know what you guys think. Are you hyped with our second-round picks? Where do you think these guys are going to fit into the roster? Short-term, long-term? Let us know in the comment section below. You're the best for making this far. Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, all that cool stuff. Ryker, any last words on our finessing in the second round?
Good year, good draft, lots of excitement, a lot of promise. Love it. Cheers.